Okay, motion thing clap. Let's start this shit. Okay, first of all, okay, why did I like want to do this in the first place was because of the whole BLM movement, right?
Yeah.
With all the intrusion of all the tons of posts about BLM on Instagram especially, right? Either you saw like it depends on your feed, but either you saw like tons of anti-BLM movements about how is it like ruining economy and like it's not ethical and all kinds of stuff, right?
Yep.
Either you saw totally like left radical communists like burn everything, destroy everything, total anarchy and stuff. And like everyone seemed to want to express their political opinion and thought they were doing something good, right? Like even you did not. I think you did not post during the whole thing, right? I did post at the beginning, but I somehow realized that well, I don't know. It doesn't have such an impact on anybody. Nobody like follows me for my political views and stuff. Like, what do you think about that? What do you think like in general on posting your political views on Instagram, especially, right? Let's talk about Instagram, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that has to be sort of taken into consideration is that what medium are you using to portray political views? I don't think Instagram was made to further political views.
Right. First of all, Instagram was like especially to flex. But
Yeah,
Instagram is a
exactly.
big platform to flex, right?
Yeah,
But-
and that's how people perceive it, right? So when you're going to do something serious on Instagram, meaning you're probably saying a political opinion which is dear to you, which you, let's say, you have constructed, you have thought about it, and now you put it out to the world, people are not usually going to take it seriously if you do it on a medium such as Instagram. I think Twitter would be more viable option to that. Twitter has become sort of like this political, how would I call it, cesspool of people just discussing, but Instagram, in my opinion, is more based on, as you mentioned, right, flexing, posting photos, posting pictures, furthering your brand or something, and that's how people take it, right? So when a person does a political view or political something on Instagram, people take it as, well, look at that guy, how smart he is pretending to be, that he's trying to moralize it. I think that intro, how would I say, that antagonism in a way, or something like naturally when you see a post like that, you just instantly react negatively to it because it's on that platform. I think if the same post would be taken to a different platform, there might have been a constructive discussion, something that is, I say, needed, right? People on Instagram don't take it that way. They just kind of, either say a meme or either just say no or,
But
or yes.
at the beginning, why did people start posting in the first place? Because they did take it seriously, no?
Yeah, I mean, you have to differentiate between the people who posted and the people who view the posts, right? Of course, there is a majority of people who just view the posts and weren't posting really, and those never really took it that seriously when on Instagram, right? That's just generalizing a group, right? You might not be exactly that group. You might have posted and taken that whole thing seriously, right? And at the same time, might just posted something for some social credit or some social something, or because that was something to say in your social group, in your social thing, in your social clique. But usually the people who posted seriously were met with some kind of reaction that was not serious, or something that people didn't really take seriously. People say shit all the time, and mainly when it's anonymous on Instagram, right? You can make whatever type of profile, you can set it to private and nobody really knows who the fuck you are, right? You say something and that's it. It kind of ends there, and people don't take it that seriously. And I think that was the whole misconception of like, okay, let's do something serious, and suddenly people are not taking it seriously, and you get all these clingy replies and kind of like people trying to be quirky, people trying to get the top likes in the comment section, right, for saying something very against something just for the purpose of saying it. And suddenly you start to think that Instagram is just like it's against everything, that most of the people are against this stuff, while people might have different political opinions, but just for the sake of posting it on Instagram, they act differently because it's anonymous, and because the platform is set that way, so people can, flex the most.
Well, I thought more like, okay, so you think like that people are not honest on Instagram by that?
No,
That's what you're implying?
no, yes, sorry. I'm implying that most of the people that I saw, they're not very honest in what they say, and now I'm talking about the demographic that just reacts, the reactionary demographic, right? People tend to be more extreme. People tend to be more, oh, I'm just pro this on Instagram, while, you know, in the reality, they might not be. It might not be so black and white.
But like, for example, like we both know a friend that's like
Yeah.
ultra commie, right? Anarchist and everything, right?
Yeah.
And she they post all kinds of extreme like leftist stuff, right? But they're the same in the real life, aren't they? Like,
I wouldn't quite say so, because I had the privilege of talking to the friend that we were talking
with
about.
like in a deep discussion.
Yeah, in a normal discussion, like face to face.
Okay.
And she posts stuff that she does believe, but when you have a rational discussion with her and you're not really like just fuck you, and you start, you know, swearing and what is this opinion, and you try to explain the point to her in person, of course, or in private chat, she tends to be more like, okay, you know, I'll take that into consideration. Okay, I'll think about it. Whether she does actually think about it or just she says it to end the discussion, you know, you never really know. You never really know what the person thinks inside. But to me, it actually seems that, you know, people very easily fall for this tribalism thing where they just go down into like, you know, on the political compass, you know, you're somewhere here and you suddenly start just shifting to the extreme. It's on both sides, you know, it's on both spectrums, right? It's not just the left side, it's also the right side. You probably don't, you know, kind of follow up with the right side.
I do a little bit, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I try to, like, during the BLM especially, I saw that my feed is very, at least like, not on my feed, but like people I follow, right? They're very only leftist. At some point I was like, you know, like when I posted something, I don't know, like, for example, BLM, I don't know, some kind of related BLM post, like what the fuck is going on. Of course I was outraged and everything, right?
Yeah.
But all the reactions that I got, like, from posting on stories were like only, yes, you go, like, yeah, this is the right thing to do, yeah, let's post against this. But there were like almost zero opposing views. The ratio of views of people with opposing views that reacted to it against the ratio of people that were like with it, supporting it, it's completely different, like 9-1, right? And so that would make me think, like, why the fuck even post in the first place when the only thing you're achieving is like this, like, you know, like self-satisfaction that, yeah, people around me think the same way, but you don't actually have that much discussions from it. That's why that's like, for example, the main reason why I stopped posting political stuff, because I wasn't really having discussions with it, right?
Yeah, it was just like encouragement to do another post, and there was no like meaningful talks about it.
Because, and so yeah, so that's why I transitioned to the, like, also I started like following and talking to people from the right spectrum, right? And you totally, like, your opinion totally changes on the thing, and you see that many of stuff on both spectrums are extremely biased. And oh my god, did you see the Jake Blake thing? The guy,
I'm not quite sure. There was a lot of names and everything. Yeah.
Jake Blake, the guy that was like, it was not so long ago. It was like 2-3 months after George Floyd. The guy was, they shot him in the back 7 times.
Oh, there was the one in front of the drive-thru or Walmart or something like that. No,
he was in a neighborhood.
Oh.
And he was like, he was there doing something. The police were called on him. He resisted police calls, like, to stop, like to stop resisting, right? And he continued going to this car, and they shot him in the back 7 times.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I saw something of that nature. I think I'm just mixing the names and even.
Okay, so I was just showing him the clip of Jacob Blake, right? And the first thing that you had, like, on social media, if you follow only the leftists, that he was a nice family man, that he went there to separate a fight between 2 women, and police completely brutally just shot him while he was not doing anything bad. But then when you actually, like, left this only very narrow view of things, only this extreme leftist, right? And you try to go to other sources too and try to get an objective view of what happened, you realize that, first of all, the guy was a total criminal, right? No, I'm not saying that a criminal deserves to be shot, but, like, just hear me out, right? He was a total criminal. He was convicted for several stuff, right? And the police was called on him because by the woman inside, right? By the woman that he was beating. He was beating a woman. He had domestic violence, right? And so the police was called on him. And that, nobody mentioned that. Nobody mentioned that in the leftist news, right? Nobody mentioned that he had a knife in his hand. You actually could see in the footage that he had a small knife in his hand, and that's why the police couldn't approach him, because he had a fucking knife. And they called him to like stop resisting, to put down the knife and just to chill out, right? He wasn't doing. He was resisting police calls, right? And he was going into the car reaching for something. So it's actually completely justified that the police shot him. Maybe not 7 times. 7 times maybe was too much, right? But he was still moving in the car when they shot him the first time. That's why they had to continue shooting. And so, if you only follow leftists and you only follow those guys on Instagram, I'm not saying now that leftists are bad or rightists are good, right? It's a mess, and there's good in both sides, bad on both sides. But if you only have this narrow view, you really get only very biased view, and you don't actually, you stray away from truth. And I forgot my point where I was heading with this, but don't. But yeah, basically that's why I started like opening myself up to other views, because there was a problem with tribalism. I had two. I kind of had a problem with tribalism. I know if you have anything to say about tribalism this day.
I think
that is happening now on
yeah,
Instagram.
I think it's all about tribalism, essentially speaking. People are able to not look at facts. People are able to say at sources they're not good. And, I had the pleasure of delving into these rightist hellholes. You don't see them on commercial sites because, it's not really politically correct today to, but you see stuff like, the blacks should be just moved to Africa. The blacks are all responsible for this. They should be made slaves again, right? You see this type of stuff too. It's not just always like, as you mentioned, like left is bad, right is good. There is extremes and tribalism on both sides to the point where people don't really look at the facts the way they are, right? We started making judgments, right, about the Jacob Blake. We started making judgments about Floyd. We started making judgments about so much stuff before whole footages, before actual some kind of synopsis of some stuff was made, before we actually got everything that we needed, all the sources together, because only then can you look at the entire situation. And you also have to consider there are many factors involved, right? Recently in Slovakia, there was a person, that was standing on a city square, I think, and he was shouting Allahu Akbar with 2 backpacks on him, right? The police, they kicked him, not to death, but they very severely injured him. They were called there and basically like a Slovak version of a SWAT team just beat him. Yeah. Right? Is that justified? Is it not? Well, try to put yourselves into the shoe of the police officer that has a daily job, that goes there, basically risks his life for a bunch of random people he doesn't know because that's his duty. He maybe has a family at home that expects him to get back for dinner. He maybe has kids he has to think about. And he's not going to risk his life for basically a criminal, a guy who does something that is not really legal, right? For example, why in prisons the guards don't actually try to break the fights? They just let everybody fight basically to death.
They don't want to die, basically.
Basically, because they know that if shit hits the fan, the criminals are never going to stand up and protect a police officer. So why should the police officers get into the matter of criminals? That's the exact same thing here. I'm not justifying that the police was brutal to somebody. I'm not justifying that, we should just respect the police and not ask questions. That's basically just resigning your powers, right? You have every right as a citizen to question the police, to question if everything was all right. But there has to be a certain measure to which you say, like, the police force is still people who go around their daily business, and they have the very privilege to live and return from duty safely, just as firemen, just as paramedics, just as any person working. So, when you're put into such a stressful situation, you cannot prepare yourself for that. There is no special training. You can do any anti-stress situation scenarios. When you are put into a real situation where you have to neutralize your criminal, it's a situation where life and death meets, and there is never training for that. You can never handle that conflict totally rationally, totally unbiased. There's always going to be mistakes made.
Yeah, but okay, you're saying there's no training, right? But that's with the police that is now, right? So, but shouldn't there be such a training?
But that's what I'm saying, that you can't really prepare people for real life, right? For example, you compare it with any job, let's say construction. You can tell those people in workshops, this is what you do, this is what you do. But the best experience those people get is when they actually have two planks and they have to do something with it.
But that's why there are these simulation trainings, right? But of course they require an extreme amount of money, right? That's why they're not happening in police. Police, they're not getting enough training. That is a fact, right? But, and so yeah, this is like all the leftists that are shouting abolish the police and like defund the police completely. Shouldn't there be quite on the opposite, that we should fund the police more, reorganize it definitely, not have everything, all the role, the role of the police guy, like have absolute power over everything, have really like small structures underneath, like I don't know, like some that are focused on mental, some are focused on drugs, some are focused on random, I don't know, small robberies and stuff. But shouldn't like actually fund more the police? And because I think it's actually possible to, at least to some extent, more than it is now, to prepare those guys for that.
Yeah.
Like in the army, for example, they do extreme simulations nowadays where the guys during the training, they're actually thinking they're going to die. So when you're saying that that you can never be prepared, that's why I think the problem is with the police now, that it's not too much funded but underfunded. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it might be the problem of funding, but the stressful scenarios are always stressful for everybody, and you can prepare yourself for that. I'm not saying that there are not simulations as we are progressing, with technology, with everything, that there are basically more options for the police officers to basically handle conflict well, or to find a way to handle conflict well while not directly engaging in a life-threatening scenario. But again, there's always that feeling like when you're put into real something, when you really have to do something and it's like your decision and it's real life, it's not now computer or simulation, there's always that thing, that survival instinct that kicks in, and you don't act all rational. You never are. Maybe very experienced police officers might, who have been through the exact same life-threatening scenario too. And you can, again, compare it to any job, right? Any doctor will tell you that those 2 years that they get, I think it's 2 years, at med school, that they have to actually go to a hospital, that's the most they learn. You can learn about anatomy, where is that heart and whatever, and how to operate it, but when you're holding a scalpel and there's a dying person, that's a different feeling. And you can simulate that, of course. You can have a robot there, you can have a live, like, VR simulation, but there is always that feeling like there is a real person standing into you, and this is real life. There is no just like you fail, you get kicked out of the academy or something. Yeah, as I was saying, there are always simulations, there is always technology. You can put them through many ifs and hows and teach them the in and outs of how this works, how this goes. But it's always different when you just get into a real life, and well, there are so many factors to think about. As I said, those people are people at the end of the day.
But else still, that doesn't justify what they did.
Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. And that's why I say, mistakes are made, and those mistakes have to be addressed after the fact. But we have to have everything in place.
Yeah.
You cannot just make direct conclusions without having all the evidence in place and just say, well, this guy should be jailed and this guy should be set free, while you have bare bones facts and you're basically viewing, as you mentioned, from one point of view.
Exactly. So we come back to the thing that we do not, with only narrow, like, most of the people on Instagram and everything, they have a very narrow perspective on stuff because of the people they follow and because of the posts that are being shared. Fuck, the microphone fell. Because of the posts that are being shared around them. I think you did a video about this, definitely.
Yeah.
I watched it. What was the term you used? This, like, you enclose yourself in the circle of something.
Oh.
I don't know.
I use that a lot. Echo chambers.
Yeah,
echo chambers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Echo chambers are very important to understand, mainly in the modern, I wouldn't want to call it society, but let's say modern.
Nowadays.
Nowadays, yeah, modern whatever interaction. because lots of people, I wouldn't quite call them weak, but I would call them that they don't really get the chance to form their opinions. It's much more easier to just follow somebody and basically repeat what they have to say. It's much more harder to look into an issue with clean head and to take the time to study the issue well. And most people don't have time for that, right? People have other business they concern themselves with. I mean, if people work, if people go somewhere, if people have a family to take care of, that's just enough stuff for one day, right? They don't have the time to watch every news and then go in immediately and for half an hour research if everything that was said in that given newspaper or news source is valid, right? And news sources and news people and whatever, they use it to their advantage basically, and they become the mouthpieces of many people, and those people just follow them. I wouldn't quite call it blind following. It's just kind of easing the entire process.
Exactly. With Instagram, especially with Instagram, right? It's very easy to just like the information is given to you very easily. As did you see all like every political post, left or right, everything is as least text as possible, big letters, try to make it sound attractive, and everything, so it's the easiest possible way to form an opinion.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do the actual thinking by yourself. No?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's also the problem of the social media as a medium, because if you take yourself back maybe 100 years ago, if something happened, not maybe 100, that's too little, maybe 200 years ago, okay? And something happened at a certain town, right? It was not the matter of a second town or third town to solve it, because they barely knew that something happened in the first town. There was no way for them to sort of find out that something happened there. And so everybody who lived in that certain town knew how the story was, and therefore they could, make opinions about it. They could be more rational about it because they knew the facts. It was basically townsfolk, and since you have these enclosed communities, or had these enclosed communities, you just kind of knew what was happening around. You knew that somebody did this, and you could make your own opinion on that. While today there is just so much happening each day, and we know about, you basically can find out what's happening from Slovakia, what's happening in USA, what's happening in Canada, what's happening in Saudi Arabia, what's happening in China.
Yeah.
But as the information gets transferred to you, it goes through so many communications, goes through so many people, that it's bound to be incorrect when it arrives at the final destination, or not capturing the entire image as it is. And social media puts it into a very new spectrum, which I don't think we as civilization, I would say, are ready for, because it's so simple that it's just like one-sided view. There is no second side story, because as the information gets passed on and on and on, everybody adds or subtracts their own part from it, and suddenly you're left with a bare bones statement that either is left or either is right.
Yeah.
And you're very easy to just say, well, that statement must be correct because this guy said it. While the information, while it got to that guy, was so much, transferred, so many things were added, subtracted, that you're never really, until you're there, you're never getting the full picture of what just happened. And there is just so much stuff being put out every day, you can't really check the validity of every stuff if you want to be perfectly correct. If you get like 3 books published worldwide in the entire year, it's a good chance those books are going to be of quality. If, let's say, those are books regarding some important issue. But when you get 3,000 posts about that issue, you can't really validate each and every post. Nobody has time for that, and I don't think nobody is even getting paid to do that, right? That's on everybody's time.
Yeah. Yeah, so getting basically the thing that we should take away from this is that don't believe everything you read on Instagram.
Yeah,
that's mainly what it comes down.
I think you shouldn't believe, I wouldn't say anything, but I think you should be skeptic about everything that is presented to you, because you always have to think about that it is presented to you for some reason. There is a reason behind it that is presented to you. It's not just somebody decided, oh, well, I'm going to post this. There is a reason the person is doing it. Maybe he has a political background. Yeah, I think we ended on the echo chambers before the camera got too hot.
but then we had this discussion about
tone the AC down a bit.
Yeah. Wait, we had this discussion basically about how ego prevents you from admitting a mistake.
Basically.
Basically.
Yeah, I think that's what's been happening with the, not with everybody, but I think with most of the people, right? That's how the echo chambers are basically created. That instead of trying to get out of the echo chamber, so for example, you have a political view, you suddenly find out that the political view is wrong. Instead of admitting like, okay, I was wrong, let's kind of reassess this, you just go deeper. You just say, well, this source is bad and this source must be good because it says my political view. And that's not really a way of getting a good discussion, because then people go into very extremes and they are just not able to admit that the second side might have some truth to it. It's never black or white. It's never like that the extreme right has the truth on this matter and the extreme left is just completely wrong. It's always that the point has to be made somewhere in the middle, and you have to meet the other side in the middle for it to work. Basically, you have to understand like, okay, this person is coming from here, what can I do about it? What is his background? What is his motivation for saying this stuff? And mainly, is he wrong in big quotation marks, or is he like saying something that has a factual basis? With wrong, I mean that he's just, or she is just saying something that it feels good to say for that person, and it's not really connected to anything that really happened, or it's not really connected to the direct static facts or something.
But yeah, that's the thing, that coming back to the ego thing and everything, that emotions are playing too big of a role in this, especially like when in discussing politics. Emotions, like, even though I understand that, and I thought for a long time that how is it possible to not talk with emotions when a black guy, George Floyd, like, for example, right, he was killed innocently completely, and the police completely did a huge mistake, right? And how is it possible to not be outraged and not use emotions? But in order to have a clear discussion, actually go somewhere and actually reach some kind of, I don't know, either convince the other party or actually you learn something, you have to cut out the emotions out of the discussion. Because if you yell at the guy, fuck you, you racist pig, yeah? It will not put him in the mood of discussing stuff. And on Instagram, everything is appealing more, like they're using a lot of ethos, or how do we learn in English, right? Yeah, they're using a lot of emotions, and I don't think it's helping us. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. Emotions should be omitted. Because at the end of the day, facts are facts, right? You can't argue
with numbers.
Yeah, you can't argue with numbers. You can't argue with something. Although I'm not really all out there like let's just follow this and that. There of course has to be some basic intelligence,
some moral values also.
Yeah. Or some, like, you just say like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like, this literally just doesn't make sense because of this and this and this. Just some common sense to think about the issue. Right? But definitely, as you mentioned, screaming and shouting at your opponent, or trying to prove your point no matter what, not losing the uphill battle, right? That's not something that you want to do, or you basically don't want to interact with that type of person, or you don't want to lead that type of discussion, because it's unproductive at the end of the day.
Yeah, and on Instagram, everything is like you against them, not against it's not like, it should be that you with them working on the problem together, but everything that we can see is just we are screaming at how bad the other party is, and that's not helping anyone at all.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've been saying. That people have somehow not forgot. Not everybody. I don't want to just throw everybody into the same pile and act as a moral Jesus, right? But many people have forgotten that it's all right to maybe be a bit wrong. Maybe to admit that, okay, I made this mistake or I made this assumption because, well, I just thought about the issue differently. Maybe, to just kind of listen to the other side and say like, okay, this guy has pretty good points. I might take something home with it. Because at the end of the day, it's out of self-interest, or it should be out of self-interest. It shouldn't be you always say like for the greater good, if everybody, but at the end of the day, it's all about being selfish, right? It's all about that you want to, you want to improve yourself into a point where you can look at a situation, any situation, and think with your own head, not be dependent on somebody to tell you like, okay, this is bad and this is good. You have to be able to differentiate what situation works or what situation doesn't, or what this situation means or what it doesn't. So this entire like listening to the other side, engaging in discussions, trying to have a normal conversation, it always should be out of self-interest, because the individual's how would I say, the responsibility, yeah, responsibility is a good word, is to make sure he understands or she understands the issue being discussed. Not as much of just being right, but understand what is being said and to react to it accordingly. So the listening should never be like, or never. Of course, it's better if everybody listens, even for the greater good, right? But it's even better for the individual, because the individual then can develop into something new and not just remain static at that worldview he or she had 5 years ago.
Yeah. Like, it's funny to say it this way, but you have to be selfish in order to progress.
Yeah. I mean, you progress because it's a selfish need.
Yeah.
You progress because you want to be better. You want to be the one that will not have to, learn new stuff. You are basically doing it for your own good.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, tying it back to Instagram, or like politics, right, on social media and everything, that you have to actually engage in discussions because of personal interest. That for the greater good, be selfish.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's, I don't know.
Yeah, lots of people are gonna disagree with that, but the bottom line is that, because if everybody focuses on him, on herself to become a bit better, well, we just kind of jump somewhere. We jump as a society or as a together communion, right? Because we live in a, generally speaking, large societies, right? So you cannot really exactly say like the entire society moves somewhere. But when you take the individuals individually, and let's say they improve in this, let's say that they, for example, on this issue, right, that they find the middle ground that works for them, you can say that the entire communion of people, while working individually, improved together, sort of. Yeah, not together in the terms like they cooperated, but together, if you count them together, all of them.
As a civilization, as a group, they improved. But like, it's funny that you're definitely gonna get like hate from this. We're getting hate from like saying this because people will not actually listen to the entire. And there's gonna be at least someone that'll just like take this out of context, take this just they're saying that you have to be selfish, and that's it.
Of
that's
course.
Quite interesting, and that's also happening on Instagram and politics. Coming back to the topic, that people do not even try to hear out the other side. That they really just have their own mindset, have their own views, and oh my god, like this was happening, that people are starting to not unfollow but block or mute people that actually try to have discussions with them.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, like if it happened to you.
I don't think I was blocked from anybody. I think I can
not a blog, but people just like
I definitely heard about it, and I definitely like didn't want to talk about it. I experienced that. But I don't think I was blocked from anybody's.
You're not even worthy of talking about it. You have this political view, we're not even talking about it. That happened with both extreme rightists in the beginning, but then also when I started to like open up and try to like get the most possible the most unbiased view, then the leftists also started like doing that. So that's funny how like both extremes actually have the same type of behavior of like muting other views.
Because they're both extremes, as you mentioned. They're gonna act in the same way even though their opinions diverge, because now you're not talking about the exact opinions. Now you're basically discussing the way a communal group handles itself. So when talking about that, the psychology, or generally speaking, the way they handle themselves, is going to remain the same, whatever political view you have or you concern yourself.
So we just shot a sequence, but I forgot to switch on the camera. Oh well. Okay, so clap. No. Clap. Okay. So the conclusion from this whole thing.
Well, so I'll divide it into points.
Okay, come on.
Basically, first point, right? Be a critical thinker. I know it's kind of cliche to say it, but truly be, you know. If you are truly interested in an issue or you want to make a stance on an issue, at least make the effort to read 5, 10 different news articles, news outlets.
Don't keep your view just like straight narrowed down, like only left, only right,
Yeah,
or
exactly. That's the second point. Never be a tribalist. Never just say like my group has to be correct in every single scenario. It's not always black and white. It's not always like
nothing is black and
yeah,
white.
exactly. It's not always just like this opinion or this opinion of this group is always correct about everything that they say and everybody else must be wrong. Always keep your mind open and never, and the third point is of course, never be afraid to say that you made a mistake or you made something that you regret or that
put your ego down.
yeah, exactly. Try to be an individual that is able to say, okay, I made a mistake. Now let's try to correct it. And fourth,
Okay, I would add to that. Do not cancel people that have opposing views.
Yeah, don't mute them.
That's like exactly. Don't mute them. Don't block them. That's the worst thing you can do for your personal development and for actually improving and becoming a better person. You have to have a completely unbiased view, and you can get that only from talking actually to both fucking parties. Okay, so don't narrow yourself down.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Okay. Okay. I should do like in interviews there's this like promotion time,
Yeah, sure.
at the
Whatever.
end. So okay, just do it yourself. Okay, about your channel, you can talk about
Yeah,
channel.
well, I have many outlets because I'm sort of artsy-martsy all over the
Yeah.
place. I brought my own T-shirt here, so
Wait,
for
no.
self-promotion. So that's my podcast.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I
Okay,
kind of sneak
wait,
it around.
Okay, yeah. That's amazing. What the fuck? Okay, shit. No, okay. So first of all, he has a YouTube channel. Okay,
Yes.
Frankie Ordant. You
Frankie
may have
Ordant.
seen him.
I'll leave a comment in the video, so
And
you can click on it.
I'll just leave everything in the description,
Yes.
right? You have seen him commenting on my videos. He has a great channel. He doesn't edit his videos, but they are amazing. Just like if you don't care about the the visuals, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I don't have a camera. I just recorded off a webcam, so
but
yeah.
what he says is really interesting. I know we disagree on a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
probably,
sure.
but he's like just go watch his channel and you'll see like just listen to him and then even talk to him. He's open to conversation.
Yeah,
and
you know,
that's amazing.
anything that you have, just comment on the video. I'll be sure to reply. Second of all, I have a podcast where it's kind of like more structured a bit. So there are exact points. So if you're looking something more factual, more structured, the podcast is here, Public Announcement Podcast.
Yeah, he was the FCC Create number 11 or 12.
Yeah.
something
I
like.
also was
by the way,
featured there.
Ooh, so now
thank you so much
boom,
for
you
that.
see this is transition to my own. This is promotion. If
Yeah.
you don't know what FCC Create is, just go down the description right on my Instagram. But okay,
Yeah.
your books.
Yeah. I have a platform which I currently use to publish my books. So no, it's not my own, of
Wait,
course.
a platform?
Yeah,
I
kind
know
of
you
like.
have books, but I didn't know you have a platform.
No, I actually have like you know
Wait,
Wattpad.
wait, what?
Wattpad.
No.
It's for these like anime writers. So I just kind of went in there and put my
Yeah.
books in there because it's for free. You know, I'll send you the link and you can maybe link it under the video.
I'll definitely do
So I put all my books that are ready to be published and are sort of corrected by me up there. You know, I don't think there is a subscribe feature, but just kind of check it out if you like my reading. It's for free. The books don't cost you a single cent. You can download them, read the chapters, and if you are seriously interested about getting a PDF or an EPUB of the book, you can you can DM me or you can just email me. Any way you communicate with me is fine with me. You know, whether it's Public Announcement Podcast or the Frankie Ordant channel, maybe just leave it in the comments and we can discuss it. I can leave you my email and you can write me something. So if you're interested in that, you know, be sure to contact me.
One day when this blows up, you'll have so many DMs.
Yeah.
Oh well, okay. Wow, fame will kill us. Oh god. So okay, thank you, you 37 filthy motherfuckers. Thanks for watching. I still don't have anything to say at the end. Just I don't know. Do you have anything?
Yeah,
One
I
last
don't
word.
know.
Okay, 2 words.
Ad Victorian.
Okay, we're done. Boom.